And we are recording. This is Barry McDonald, your mayor, and I'm currently with Steve Wall, who's our Public Works Director. Steve has been our Public Works Director for the last 6 years at Camas and has 22 years total experience, and is also a licensed professional engineer in Washington and Oregon. Thank you, Steve, for joining me today. So some people might not be familiar with Public Works. What services does your department provide?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to think about it is just our department's responsible for all of the city's infrastructure. So we have operations and maintenance of the city's utilities. So most people would be familiar with water and sewer, stormwater, and then garbage is also a utility for us. And then we have operations and maintenance of the city's parks, streets, buildings, fuel or facilities, and then all of the fleet or equipment that the city owns, the department also maintains. And then the other bigger piece or big piece is the new infrastructure that gets constructed. So projects like Brady Road that people see going on right now, Cooper's Park that's been completed in the past, and then we have a large sewer pump station project too that's under construction right now at Lacamas Creek along the trailhead at 3rd Avenue.
So you guys are responsible for a lot of things. How is the current coronavirus emergency impacting those services?
Yeah, on the operations side, we've had to reduce our what we would call levels of service slightly, basically those services that we provide, but we're still able to provide the basic functions of every department or every service that we typically do. So we're making sure that the crews all have the protective gear that they need to protect themselves, and then also complete the work that they would normally have to do. We'll still provide clean water. We're still providing sewer services. So if people flush the toilet, there's still somewhere for it to go. So they shouldn't see a difference. Even though there's some maintenance on our side that we're having to defer that we'll have to get caught up on after this emergency is over. We get a lot of questions on garbage. Working with the finance department, they take a lot of those calls, but we're still picking up garbage every day, so people shouldn't see a difference there. The drivers are in separate trucks, and they're able to be safe and be on the road and be able to get everybody picked up as we normally do. I think parks is unfortunately something that has recently been impacted the most. I think people likely seen our press release that has gone out that talks about the closure of all of our play structures, restrooms, and other facilities in our parks. And so that's something that people will definitely notice, but it's for everybody's safety, and hopefully people understand that. They'll still be able to enjoy the grassy areas of the parks, so you can walk around and enjoy the open spaces. And then the trails are definitely still open throughout the city. And I guess, we would ask that people still maintain that 6 feet of separation, and the distancing requirements that the governor has put in place. That's important even when you're out on the trail system. So
I think it's very important that we're all maintaining those distances and treating this very seriously. I know that, again, I recently came back from Spain where there were a few weeks ahead, I believe, in this pandemic. And we took it very seriously as we traveled. And even as we got back to Portland, we had a neighbor pick up our car from our house and drove it to the airport with his wife behind him. So he was able to just kind of wave to us. We jumped in the car and were able to go home. And we've been self-isolating ourselves in the house for the next couple of weeks to ensure that we don't unintentionally pass this on and take it very seriously with that. And I know that this is something that your department is doing as well. And you have probably more individuals that are out in the field as you have outside of fire and police, a lot of moving parts that need to happen, and we need to be out to make that happen. How are we ensuring that our staff is maintaining these same protocols and ensuring that we're not unintentionally passing on this virus?
Yeah, we have a large department as a whole, but thankfully we're broken up into individual crews that take care of each of the services that we provide. So we have a little bit of help there, but our administrative and office staff are able to work at home. So that's what they're doing currently. And they're able to still answer the phones and provide help to those that have questions. I think the biggest thing that we've done to help minimize exposure is split our individual crews up into two different groups. And we've implemented essentially a 1 week on, 1 week at home approach, similar to other agencies. People may have heard, I think Vancouver and Washougal, I think potentially are running the same type of system. But when folks are working from home, they're in an on-call status, and they'll be called in as needed. But it does a couple of things for us by doing that. One is that we're reducing the staff to staff and the staff to citizen interactions. So that social distancing piece, we're trying to make sure that we can provide the services, but still maintain those types of separations, even amongst our internal employees. And then the other thing it does is that by splitting the crews up into two and kind of isolating them week by week, if somebody does get sick, and hopefully we don't see it, but if they do, it won't decimate an entire crew. We'll still have half the crew that's at home and hopefully not exposed to a person that might get sick or might show signs at least. And so that kind of second crew, if you will, is able to come in and provide the essential services that we'll need.
That's great. Thank you for making that happen as well, or ensuring that that is a priority. So as we go through this as well, people are buying a lot of stuff at the grocery stores, and two things that you hear a lot about is toilet paper and bottled water. Any thoughts from your perspective on those two items?
Yeah, those are the fun things we get to talk about, right? I think this is twice in one conversation I'll talk about the toilet. So interesting. We sent out a message here recently. Hopefully people have seen it. Vancouver, I think, and others have also sent similar messages out that we would ask that people don't flush anything down the toilet except toilet paper. It's specially made so that it breaks down as soon as it hits the water or shortly thereafter. And it's really the only thing that's meant to be flushed. The main thing that people see are those flushable wipes or baby wipes, even paper towels and Kleenex tissues. None of those things are actually supposed to be flushed down the toilet. They, especially in Camas with the specific type of system that we have, but nationwide, this is an issue, worldwide actually, that, some of those paper products clog up the pumps and the sewer system, and that can cause backups, which can be obviously not good for the homeowner, and it creates work for the department to come out and try and, have to fix the clog that's happening and get things working again so that people can flush their toilet and have that service. So it's something that seems funny to talk about, but in this in this time that we're going through, when it seems like toilet paper is in the news every day, it's something to keep in mind. So.
And then when it comes to the bottled water and it comes to water as a whole, any concerns with us getting water or maintaining that service?
Yeah, no, not necessarily here. The city supplies, we have a great supply of water. It tastes good. During this type of emergency, we have operators and backup plans in place to make sure that we can keep providing water to the community. So, is there a need to stock up on bottled water? Not necessarily. Bottled water is good to have in your emergency kit, but I think, do we foresee an issue right now and able to provide water in this case? I would say at this point that, we should have sufficient procedures in place and sufficient water that people, don't need to go out and stock up on bottled water currently.
Great. And Steve, we also have some infrastructure projects that are under construction currently or ready to start construction. Is it a good time to continue working on these projects with everything that we have going on currently?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'd start with is that the governor's proclamation, the stay home, stay safe, we're still tracking that. We're tracking other, obviously, Department of Health and CDC recommendations on being able to have the contractors and employees out on these types of projects. So that's the first thing that I'll mention, is that we're being careful there, and we're monitoring all of the news and activities. But from just a standpoint of getting out and completing the projects, it's actually an ideal time to get out and do these types of projects. There's, should be few people on the road, so hopefully everybody is staying home and staying safe. And so as construction starts or keeps moving, there should be little impacts to the contractors' work that they're doing because there's less vehicles on the road. And then, obviously if people aren't driving, they're not being impacted by those projects that on a, quote, normal day might have a greater impact on them. So the contractors and employees for the city that inspect those projects, they typically work in smaller crews anyway, and even those crews are spread out throughout the project site. So maintaining the distances that are recommended are certainly, possible to do in those types of situations. So it's a good time to complete these projects from that perspective. We've got dedicated funding for most of our projects that doesn't impact any of our other city services at all. So we've got the money to be able to move forward. And I think, the other thing I thought about is that from an economy standpoint, in times of recessions or when the economy is down, really throughout the last 100 years in the U.S. history, the way we've pulled out of those is by building projects and getting people out to work and constructing infrastructure. So everything from the Great Recession, all the way through to Obama's, ARA program that he had in place in 2009. That's the way we pulled out of this type of economy.
Great. And again, we're monitoring it on a day-by-day basis and trying to understand many different factors to it. But again, we're figuring it out. What message would you like to send to the community, or is there anything else that you wanted to hit on?
Yeah, the last thing I would say is I think it's important for people to understand that we're still here. The operations crews are out doing work. If something comes up, we've got plans in place to be able to address them, and hopefully we're still meeting everybody's needs and providing those essential services.
Well, I appreciate it, Steve, for everything that you do. And again, these are some interesting times that we're going through, but I feel very confident with your leadership as well, and that we're maintaining those services that are so crucial and important for the community. So thank you very much, and we will talk very soon. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Stay safe.
You too.